Hi everyone. So in today's video, we are going to be exploring a little bit of Power Query, and we are going to do this using two different examples. The scenario is almost the same, but the way we are going to tackle it is going to be a little bit different. So just to provide some kind of context on what we are going to do is that we have some kind of a device, and this device is reading data. It's taking readings, providing the readings in a system, and then you're extracting this data out of the system, you're validating it, and then you're putting it back into the system. So your validation of this data is going to be based on two different scenarios, and the scenarios are what we are going to actually look at on how to go about fulfilling this validation based on the different scenarios. So without going into much, let's open up our PowerPoint and then look at what I'm trying to tell you. So, okay. Now, so this is an example of the columns of data that we have. So we have two columns, and we have the date, and then we have the concentration. So as you can see, the date column is a time date, and then the concentration, of course, is concentration. So from looking at this, you can see that the device is giving you data in intervals of 15 minutes. Okay, and then looking at this, you can see that from 11 to 11:45, we are having the same reading every after 15 minutes. And then when you compare again, when you examine the data a little bit more, when you look at 12 to 12:45, still it's the same reading. And then when you look from 1 to 1:45, again the reading has changed to 45, but in the intervals it's the same. So 1, 1:15, 1:30, 1:45, still giving you the same reading. And then when you look at 2 to 2:45, it's the same, and then it's literally the same throughout. So your task at hand is going to be to return the top hour of the sensor readings. Since the 15-minute intervals are the same, so scenario number one, the readings are the same in every 15-minute interval, and then you're supposed to return the top 1 hour, and then feed back this data inside the system. So what do I mean? You're going to have some kind of a thing like this. So this is going to be your kind of like end result. So you'll be like, for example, from 11 to 11:45, you'll have only one reading for only 11. Then from 12 to 12:45, you have only one reading for only 12. But now you're extracting the original data, and then you're validating it, and then you're putting it back. So how can we do this in Power Query? In Power Query, this is straightforward. We are just going to use an inbuilt function, and this function is time.minute. So the logic behind this function is very simple. What it does is that you extract out the minute component of the time. So for example, you have 11:15, and when you use this function particularly, it is going to give you 15 minutes. So you're extracting out the minute component of the time. And what we are going to do is that after extracting out this minute component of the time, we are going to apply some kind of an if condition, and then we shall be like, so if we are having minutes in our time component, then we are going to flag it as 1, and if we don't have minutes, we shall flag it as 0. So with that done, then we shall now filter out all the times where we have minutes, and then we shall remain with times where we don't have minutes. Okay, so let's look at it in Power Query, and then let's see how to do this in Power Query. So this on my desktop, I have this data file here. So when I open this data file, this is the data file, the same data file in our PowerPoint. And then let's load it up in Power Query. So to load it in Power Query, you go to the data tab. Then since you already opened the sheet, the file, you're inside it. So just go from table or range, and then when you click on it, it will automatically load into Power Query. Okay, so now it has loaded into Power Query. So remember the logic behind. We said we are going to use the time.minute function. So we want to extract out the minute component from our time, and then we shall apply some kind of if condition on it. Okay, so let's get a new column, go to add a column over there, and then we are going to add a custom column. So we shall come here, and then we shall use time.minute. Now you need to be a little bit careful when you're using these functions in Power Query, which are already inbuilt. They are case sensitive. So if it is a capital letter, it should be a capital letter. If it's a small letter, it should be a small letter. So we are going to extract our minutes from our date column, because the date column is the one housing the time. Okay, so if I click OK, for now you can see in this column, in this custom column, so you can see for row number 1, you can see we have the time as 11:45, but when you check out the custom column, it has extracted out the minutes, so we have only 45 minutes. So this is what I mean by the function. The function is just extracting out the minutes. Okay, so now after that, we shall now apply our if condition onto this particular function. We shall come and say if the minutes are available in our time component, so if we have minutes, or if we don't have minutes, let's say if we don't have minutes, meaning like if the minutes are 0, okay, then flag it as 1, else flag it as 1. Well, sorry, flag it as 0. So what do I mean by that? It's like, look at our time, check the minute part of it. Do we have minutes there? If we don't have minutes, flag it as 1. If we have minutes, flag it as 0. As simple as that. Then you hit OK. Now you can see that we are having zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. So we know that the 0 represents that we have minutes in the time component, and the 1 represents that we don't have any minutes in the time component. So when you come here and then you filter out all the zeros, and you remain with the ones, you can check now in your date column, you can see that we are having 12, 1, 2, 3. We are having only the top hours that we needed in the beginning. Alright, so now you can come here and just remove this column here, the custom column, and then go to home, close, and load. And when you load it back into your Excel, now you have the Excel sheet with only the top hours. Now you can now push it back into the system. So that is our first task that we had. That's the first case scenario that we are having. So either the readings of the device, the readings are the same in every after 15 minutes for a given time frame. So when we look at our second scenario, in our second scenario, it's almost the same, but a bit different. So we are also having 2 columns of data. And here we are also having, just like before, we are having the column date and concentrations. Date is also a date time column, and then concentration is concentration, as you can see. But now the difference here is that if you look closely, if you examine the data closely, you can see that yes, at 11:45 the reading is 93, then the reading changes to 72, and then it remains 72 for the next 15 minutes, but then it changes to 83, then it changes to 75. So here the change is not uniform like before. Before the change was changing, we're having a change every after 45 minutes. You get what I mean? So like 1:15, 1:30, 1:45, then in the next 15 minutes it changes. Then in the next it changes. But here the change is not uniform. So it can change after 15 minutes, it can change after 1 hour, it can change after 30 minutes. So now the task at hand that we are having here, the task at hand is we want to detect, and then we need to see at what time did the change first occur. Then that's the value that we want. That's the date that we want and the concentration that we want. Okay, so we are detecting and returning the time at which the sensor reading started to change, the first time it starts to change. So that's what we need. So how are we going to go about this? What do I mean? So we shall have some kind of a thing like this. For example, you can see at 11:45, so we shall be only taking 11:45. Then at midnight we had a change. Then at 30 minutes past midnight we had a change. At midnight 45 we had a change, and so on and so forth. So how can you do that? How are we able to do that in Power Query? So without even Power Query, how would you do that? So first, what you're going to do is that we know that we are having time is increasing down the column. So it's 11:45, midnight, 15 past midnight, half past midnight, midnight 45, 1. So time is going down, meaning that at any point, at any given row, if you're at row number 2, the row above it is the previous row. It has the previous information. Okay, so this is, if you're at this row, then the row above it has the previous information. So what you're going to do is that you'll get the current row, okay, and then you're comparing it with the row above it. Okay, so for example, if you look at this one here, which is highlighted in yellow, So it's reading 72 and it is midnight. So we need to compare this time with the time before it, which is 11:45. If they are the same, that means there was no change in the reading of the sensor. But if they are different, that means at midnight, the sensor reading changed. And then you can see from here directly that at 11:45, the reading was 93. At midnight, the reading was 72. So same thing is happening. So when you go to 15 past midnight, we're having a reading of 72, and then when we look above it, we are having another reading of 72. So you can see that the reading is the same, so meaning there was no change in the reading. But then when you go to a half past midnight, the reading is 83, and before 15 minutes before, the reading was 72. That means the sensor readings changed. So that's what we are doing. So what we are doing is we are looking at the current row in our data, and then we are comparing its reading. We are looking at the current row. We are comparing its reading with the row above it. Like that, like that, like that. Current row, and then we are comparing with the value above it. Current row, the value above it. Current row, the value above it. That is what we are doing. Okay, so now question is, how do you do this in Power Query? How are you going to do this in Power Query? How are you going to be able to do this in Power Query? So for us to be able to do this in Power Query, what we shall do is very simply, so what we want to do is that we are looking at this value here, okay, and then we are comparing it to, actually we are looking at this value here, and then we are comparing it to this value before here. So what we need to find a way of bringing down this 93, bring it down on the same row with 72, and then have a direct comparison. Do the same, come here on this current row here, this other 72 here, then bring down this 72 before it, put it down here, and then have a direct comparison. So that is what we are that's the logic behind. That's how we are going to be able to do this. So you bring the value before, bring it on the same level with the value that you want to compare it with, and then do a direct comparison. Okay. So let me just show you exactly what I mean by this. So what I mean is, so you're getting that 93, you're putting it down there, and then you're having a direct comparison. Then you're getting the 72, put it down, have a direct comparison, get the 72 again, put it down, have a direct, like that, like that, like that. Now when you do that is that now the column, the original column that you had, becomes the column which has your current values. So if you keep offsetting it one by one, putting it on the same, so the original column that you had, that becomes the column with your current values. And now the new column that you're creating is the column that is having values which are before the current column. Okay, so what do I mean? So if you look at this now, so if we look at 72, we are on column 72. So 72 now is the current column that we are at. But when we look at this column highlighted in yellow, the value 93 is the value before 72. When we go to the next row, 72 again, when we adjacent to it, again we have 72, but this 72 is the 72 before this current row that we are talking about. When you move to the row 83, you're going to find the adjacent one is 72, and this 72 is the one above it. So we are just offsetting it one by one, one by one, one by one, so that they're on the same level, and then we can do a one-to-one, we can do a direct comparison. Question, how do we do that in Power Query? So I'm just explaining to you the logic behind it, so that now when we go to Power Query, you know exactly what we are trying to do. So let's move to Power Query and see how to go about that. So this is the data, this is the file that we are going to be working with. So it's literally the same. Load it into Power Query, go to your data tab, from table or range, and boom, it's inside Power Query. Okay, now to do this in Power Query, we are going to use a combination of indexes and a merge. So we shall index the tables, then we shall merge it on itself. If you are coming from the SQL background, this is the same as doing a lag function. Okay, this is the same as doing a lag function. So what we are going to do here now, Now we are going to try to build out our logic, how to bring back, how to offset these values down by 1. So we shall name this query here, we shall call it current values. Okay, then we shall duplicate the same exact column, sorry, the same exact query, and we shall name it previous values. Okay, now let's go to our current values. If we go to our current values, we shall go to add a column and we shall index it. So indexing means that you're putting some kind of a unique identifier for each and every row. So this 0 is a unique identifier for the first row, 1 is a unique identifier for the second row, 2 is a unique identifier for the third row. Like that. That's the meaning of indexing. So you're just putting some kind of a unique identifier for each and every row within your table. So we have put our index, and our index is starting from 0. Then we shall go to our previous table, our previous values query, and we shall do the same. Now in this case, now we are going to put again an index, but this time the index is going to be starting from 1. Okay, so by you just doing that, you can just compare now and see. If you look at your current values, the index 1 is 26. If you look at the value, at the concentration value is 72 for index 1. The concentration value is 72. When you go to previous values and look at index 1, the concentration value is 92. Okay, so in the current values at index 1, concentration is 72, but in previous values at index 1, concentration is 93. Okay, now by you doing that, now you can see that now if you merge these two tables together, remember you're going to merge them now on the index column. And what does merging do? Merging means you're going to combine these two tables on a common column. Okay, and for the rows to be merged together, for the rows to be combined together, the values of the row have to be exactly the same in each table. What do I mean? So only in the index column, the index 1 will merge with index 1. So that means you're going to have index 1 here, and then you're going to have concentration 93, and then again you'll have at the same time, at the same index 1, you're going to have another concentration 72. By you doing that, you've already offset the what? You've already offset the balance. You've brought now the previous values on the same level with the current values. So let's do that. Let's go to our current values. Let's go to home, go to merge queries, no need to merge it as new, and then go to here. We are going to merge with the previous values. We shall be merging on our index column. We shall have an outer merge, and then we shall do everything. So just go here and then expand your table. So we shall take out only the concentration. That's the only one that we are looking for. So this is what I was talking about. You can see in our index column at index 1, you can see that the concentration from the current value is 72, but at the same time the concentration from the previous value is 93. So this is what I meant by you offsetting it by 1. So now you've already offset it by 1, and now you can now do a direct comparison here, and then you'll be like, so if the concentration from our current value is not the same concentration from the previous value, then that means there was a change, because the current value is reading different and the previous value is reading different. But if the current value is the same as the previous value, then that means there was no change. The readings did not change. And then that's now the logic that you're going to come here. You'll come and then create some kind of custom column. So we shall be like, if the current concentration is not equal to the previous concentration, if the current concentration is not equal to our previous concentration, then we shall flag it as a 1, else flag it as a 0, and then boom, there you go. So now you can see that all the flags that are 1s, those are the ones where we are having the current concentration is different from the previous concentration. What do I mean? The one just directly above it. And then where you're having 0s, that means the current concentration is exactly equal to the previous concentration. Which previous concentration? The one just directly above it. Because in the original table, we know that the previous time is just above the current time. So now you can filter out, sorry, you can now filter out all the zeros, and there you go. So now all the times that you're remaining with are the times when the first change happened at our sensor. So now you can now take out all these helper columns and then remain with only your date and concentration from the current table. There you go. And then close and load. You close and load. There you go. You can actually also take out this, you can take off this index as well. We don't need it. It came with it. Okay. Okay. Close and load. And just by doing that, you are done. So now all the times that we have, these are the times when the first reading change happened in our sensor. And now you can save this and then load it back into the system. So yes, that's what I wanted to look at. Like I said, if this is the same kind of problem in SQL, you just have to use the lag function. The lag function will give you exactly the same. Alright, so those are the two scenarios that I wanted us to look at in Power Query. Anyway, so my name is Abraham. I'm a data analyst. So I try my level best to see that I can bring realistic examples of how we are using these data tools in our day-to-day. So yeah, this is my second video, so you can please subscribe and then help the channel to grow. So far I have 22 subscribers, so please subscribe. Yes, thank you so much.